All right, here we are. We have completely taken the motor off, taken the motor apart, taken our sweet time in one of those episodes and got just beat up by a little tiny motor. Uh, I got in there and found a lot of sticky problems that I was able to resolve. Uh, got the motor put back together. It sounds uh, great. Just by on the bench, it sounds great. It'll sound great outside too, I guarantee it. Our next step is to get the old radio out, uh, which technically is uh, let's see, uh, what we have is my high-tech radio was in here. A couple years ago, a year or so ago, I switched from high-tech radios to Spectrum radios. Uh, and a few weeks ago, I got my IX14. I had an IX12. The reason I switched to Spectrum, went from high tech to Spectrum, was nothing against high tech. High tech. I had a long relationship with high tech. I was a team high tech pilot for over 10 years, so maybe closer to 15 years. I still am. I'm always going to be a high tech pilot. Uh, this plane has all high tech servos in it. It's great equipment. Uh, it's really never let me down. Uh, High tech stopped producing high end uh, transmitters. They kept producing high end receivers and servos. I still use their servos in everything that I have to put servos in. I got Spectrum because a lot of the airplanes that I buy, and I have a lot of airplanes, have Spectrum receivers in them. They have model presets in them, which means I can go buy an airplane, and sometimes out at the field, I can just download the program to an airplane. Boom, I have my airplane ready to fly. Just check it all over, and I can go fly. Or I can set it up really fast with the IX14. Uh, with the IX14, it has all the same menus as the DX6, the DX9, the DX series. The Airware system is kind of universal for all Spectrum radios. My dad's got a couple DX9s. I can look at my transmitter and tell him where to go when he's out asking questions about where do I need to go to set whatever up. And I can actually find the menus faster that way. The screen's a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter. Extremely handy. Uh, for me. That battery's almost fully charged already. These light packs, I wish they would have come out with those much sooner in my life. I use all light packs in all my nitro airplanes. I don't use nickel metal hydride. I don't use NiCad. I don't use lipos. I use light packs. They're 6.6 nominal voltage. Uh, which means uh, not much to a lot of people. Me, that means I've got good quality power to my servos at all times. Now I gotta remember So on high-tech, ailerons, it's 1, but on spectrum, it's 2. Elevator would be 3. Throttle is 1 on spectrum. Throttle is 4. See if that works. Okay, we're going to set up. We're going to go through this step by step. Maybe someday I'll be able to figure out screen share. It's another spectrum receiver. I've got, or not spectrum, high-tech receiver. I've got so much high-tech gear still. Go there. What can you see? You can see this pretty well. It's not very close. I'll talk through what I'm doing. First, I'm going to reset this acro model. I always start with fresh models. So we're going to then go ahead and name this. Kadet. I can find the apostrophe. Kadet. Done. Search for a picture that gives me a mental clue that I'm on the right model when I'm running through different airplanes out of the field. Nice if I can find no images. Recent downloads. Just do. I think that's pretty funny. We'll use that. Okay, so now we have Kadet. Now we need to bind. Now, something that has been brought to my attention by my father, and I've had it happen to me a few times too. When you go to bind mode, if you notice I set my transmitter pretty far away. Might not be far enough. I don't know. you need to have some distance between your transmitter and your airplane. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. Hold the button on here. Hold the button down, turn it on. Lights flashing, hit bind. Bind success. Hit OK. All right. Now, before we go any farther, that's the problem. Okay. Aileron or rudder and throttle are wrong. So we can look at these two here. What I had wrong was throttle and rudder. So I still have it wrong. Oh, it's this one. Throttle and forward. Let's see. Okay. Throttle's in the right spot now. Then we will test this. Elevator's in the right spot now. Make sure your plugs are completely set in here. Okay. And now, rudder. The binding process with Spectrum is also your failsafe. So whatever you bound at is your failsafe. Meaning, right now, my throttle is reversed. My rudder is reversed. We need to servo setup, reverse throttle. Are you sure? Yes. Rebind at low throttle to reset failsafe. Okay, I will do that in a minute. Rudder. And then while we're at it, it's not that hard. Go ahead and hook up your ailerons. Check them. So you only have to rebind once. The story is, we didn't do that once a few, 6 months, a year ago. A friend of mine got a new airplane he was really excited about. New to him, used airplane. We went through it. We spent an hour going through it. Yes. They're going right. So, in case you're wondering, you can't see from there. So, move the stick to the right aileron goes up. That means the air hits the top of the right aileron and it pushes that wing down. Makes you do a right turn. The next one, elevator, you pull the stick back, pull the stick back, it's up elevator. This is how I hold my sticks. This is how I hold them at home. Okay? Left, rudder. The rudder goes left, which pushes the tail to the right, making it turn left. Confusing. I set this plane up. It looks like I didn't pay much attention to sub trims. They're pretty close. A little bit of trimming is going to be at hand for this. Get into that later. So now the radio has life. I'm noticing, I'm hearing a servo jitter. Could be because it's overworking. So we need to set low throttle. Fairly simply, I'm going to loosen. I only eyeballed this earlier. So I'm going to loosen this screw, remove the throttle all the way to closed. The battery's charged. Luckily, there's a giant Z-bend in this. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. When I pulled my throttle stick all the way down, which is mid-trim throttle, I lost the rod almost. The guy who put this together knew that could be a problem, so I put the Z-bend in here and actually adjust the throttle linkage a bit. Oh. See what that does. I might just snap something. I'll have to inspect that closely. Okay. Okay, so we have full range of motion on our throttle. I don't see anything broken. Which is good. I do see the elevator servo not quite straight. It looks like I have these slides to mount down elevator. I would say I need to sub-trim here, still in servo setup, sub-trim elevator a little bit. going the wrong way. That looks pretty good. So what I ended up doing was the elevator servo was just a little bit off, not straight. I'd rather the elevator servo be straight with sub trim and the control surface be level as my starting point. It's kind of important to have linear travel of your servos by starting at 90-degree control surfaces. 100% throw. Everything looks good there. Now my rudder seems to have a little bit of left rudder in it. Now I'm going to look the same way at the servo. The servo's not straight. If you can see it, my elevator servo's not really that straight yet either. But it's closer. Look in there. You can see it's a little bit off. So I'm going to do the same thing in here. It's so little bit off that I'm not going to go in and it's going to be too many teeth off either direction to be dead center. So I went into servo setup, trim, actually makes more left. Same thing with my front wheel. In a perfect world, I would want my servo to be, I'll do it anyways. I want my servo to be 90 degrees. It's pretty good. Elevator's a little bit up. Trying to see if I can get to a point where you can see this on the camera. That's pretty good there. So what I need to do, I need to make this arm long. Give me a lot. Metal clevis take an extra tool. Figuring out if I can do it. Several turns out makes the shot longer. Gets you much closer. I always pull on these two to make sure while I'm doing this. It's a tiny bit of left. Now, this could probably going to need a little bit of right trim to fly straight. So if I had just the tiniest little hair of right, because of P factor, right thrust, like that, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. But I like to be zeros. And then the final trimming to do on the transmitter in flight, since it's my airplane that I'll probably never get rid of. Uh, I don't have to worry about zeroing these trims to like back in the 80s and prior, 90s and prior. Uh, these things, you had to change aircraft. You had one transmitter, no computers. So when you changed airplane, uh, putting a little bit of glue on the rudder push rod entry into the bulkhead. Got some on the elevator too. That'll be fun in a little while. You had one transmitter that said one thing, one set of things. You needed to build your airplanes and trim them out manually. Uh, Tiny little bit of ride. Take it. Then the same thing with the nose wheel. So you had one transmitter. It was a lot like this thing, the DXS. Comes with the ready-to-fly airplanes from Spectrum. So like E-Flight, Horizon Hobby, Park Zone have a ready-to-fly transmitter. It doesn't have computers, and you don't get to name your models. You don't get to have all these different saved settings. You have one set of settings that you use for all your airplanes. So you had to set your airplanes up to fly the same. You had to manually fix everything to make the airplane fly straight. Now that wasn't too big of my problem. When I was really young, setting up my first couple airplanes, that was a problem. All our airplanes, you pick up a transmitter, it went to this airplane and this airplane and this airplane. When you turn that transmitter on, it better be zeroed out. Trims better be zeroed out. Everything better be zeroed out so that it flew the same. It flew right. It flew straight. You'd have to remember if you had to reverse a servo or something like that too. Those are little tiny switches on the back of the transmitter. So now we have computer radios that do a lot of that stuff for us. That was the glue that hit my push rod. It's set up. That's better. All right, so now I need to fix my steering wheel. It's shooting off its own direction. Looks like the same. All that straight. Luckily, there's a quick adjust down here. I can do this with. Make sure it's tight. Let's make sure while we're here, the firewall, motor mount, is tight. It's bigger than that. These are 3.0s. All right, essentially, the radio's back alive. We made some adjustments. All right, everything's going in the right direction, so we need to rebind. So we'll go back to bind. I'll turn it up so you can listen to her as she talks while I do this. I'm going to turn this off and hold the button. Turn it on. The light's flickering. Let's see if it'll do it this close.
Telemetry.
All right. Analyzing packets. Now, I have to figure out where I'm going to mount my receiver. Last one I had it mounted right there on a piece of Velcro. That sounds great. We have like distance off. You know, so this receiver, this is going to be for the next episode. This receiver has telemetry, has safe, and it has AS3X. What's that? Well, AS3X is stabilization. This airplane, unless it's a real windy day, doesn't need any stabilization. Does not fly fast. Fly quickly. It has enough power to do that. Boom, radio's mounted. I'm going to call the battery good. I'll do some further testing on that. It's held a charge for a very long time. I'm going to call it into this episode. This episode was getting the radio fired back up. The servo in question that was twitching was the throttle servo. And I think it was twitching because I had it bound up at low throttle. So the radio so far is the servos are all acting good. There's no no bad stuff happening in here. The next video will be setting up the receiver the rest of the way. AS3X. Safe modes. Don't necessarily need safe modes that much. Safe modes, there's a beginner mode. This airplane will virtually be set up after it's trimmed out. With safe on, you throttle up, it will take off and stay level. It will do light, lazy turns with full stick input. That's on full safe. Intermediate safe. We can set it to where with a full stick input, it won't go past 90 degrees, which you can take it down to about 80. Which it makes it really hard to get in trouble. On a big trainer like this, I'll go up and I'll do loops and rolls and half reverse Cuban eights, spins or whatever with this airplane. But when you're training someone and somebody gets your attention for a second, that's exactly when they get in trouble. And if you're in intermediate mode, they're, oh my God, help me. is much more controllable. You can even set up a panic button that would automatically right the airplane as long as you hold this button. So it could be going in a death spin. You hit this button, it'll immediately chill out and fly straight line. As long as you're holding that button too. It'll fly off into the sunset. Next issue is the third position of the safe format is expert, where it's just you can have AS3X turned on, you can have AS3X turned off, which is your stabilization. I like to have a little bit of stabilization all the time. Makes my landings really cool, my takeoffs really nice. Makes some different maneuvers on more professional or more acrobatic planes, professional planes. Makes some maneuvers a little bit prettier. Makes prettier things happen with planes that aren't supposed to be able to do things that nice. Like I've got a big ugly stick. It's a high wing trainer style airplane, very acrobatic. It doesn't knife edge very well. It knife edges better with some stabilization. So there's lots of variances you could do with the AR630 stabilization. Next video, we will set those things up. So here we go.